Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. Behind the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Status Podcast with your host, Nate the Great. I'm going live today to cover the last of the 8 divisions. We finally made it to do a blind review of all of the 8, all teams in the NFC South. To start off, I'm actually going to go ahead and talk about one specific team last, but I'll have a reason for that and I'll explain later on. So I'm going to go ahead and just cover the New Orleans Saints first. They play on the road against the Tennessee Titans, and then I have them winning that one. They lose to the Carolina Panthers, beat the Packers on the road, beat the Bucks, beat the Patriots, beat the Texans, and then they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So by the time week 7 is over, they get 2 losses to the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Beat the Colts on the road, beat the Bears. Lose to the Bears, so they get 3 by week 9. Then they beat the Vikings in week 10, and then they have their bye. So there'll be 3 losses by the time week 11 is all said and done. Week 12, they go play the Falcons, lose. And then week 13, they beat the Lions and win. And then they beat the Panthers in week 14. Week 15, I have the Saints losing to the Giants on a surprising loss. Then they actually go out and beat the Rams, beat the Bucks, and then lose to the Falcons. So to start off this, the New Orleans Saints will finish off the year 12-5, which is actually much higher than I thought they were going to, because pretty much everybody in the NFC South finished off with a worse than 500 record. Going into the next division, we have the Carolina Panthers. They start off the season on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. I have them losing that one. But they beat the Saints in week 2, beat the Seahawks in week 3, beat the Vikings in week 4, and then they lose 2 straight to the Detroit Lions and the Miami Dolphins, and their bye. So by the time week 7 is by the time they have their bye week in week 7, they go off on a 3-3 record. Then after their bye, they pick up more wins, beating the Texans, beating the Colts, beating the Bears, beating the Cowboys, beating the Titans, beating the Bucks. So yeah, that's 5-6 straight. Then after week 13, they play the New Orleans Saints and lose that one. Then they win their final game of the season, which actually is going to be to the Atlanta Falcons. And then they lose the final 3 straight. That actually will bring their record to a 10-7. So they don't actually go out and win the division, not this year, but they do make a strong case for a wild card playoff spot, which I do think they are going to, because my next team is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, they do lose the tiebreak. I mean, they do win the tiebreaker over the Atlanta Falcons, but I'll go ahead and talk about the schedule. The Falcons start off by beating the Carolina Panthers in week 1, beating the Green Bay Packers in week 2, losing to the Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars. So 2-2, not looking good. Then they beat the Texans, beat the Commanders, beat the Bucs on the road, lose to the Titans, lose to the Vikings, beat the Cardinals. Then they have their bye. So by the time all that's said and done, by the time the bye week happens, they actually will have 4 losses. Titans, Vikings, Lions, Jaguars, win against everybody else. After the bye, they start off with a game against the Saints, and I think they pick up W there. Lose to the Jets, however. They beat the Buccaneers, beat the Panthers. Lose to the Panthers, lose to the Colts, lose to the Bears, beat the Saints. Now, they do sweep the Saints here. However, I actually gave however, they will finish off 3rd in their division because they will not have a record better than the New Orleans Saints, and they lose the tiebreaker to the Carolina Panthers. Which means that there's only one team that we really got to talk about, and then this project is done and is put behind into the books. Well, literally on paper, but anyway, no pun aside, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I was not nice to them at all. I have them winning 3 games. They go out, they play so I'm actually going to start off with their later in the schedule, and then I'm going to go ahead and go backwards. The only time I'm going to do that, they actually start off with, so week 18, I do have them beating the Panthers in week 18, only because it was a last game of the season. It really determines whether or not they're going to get a top 5 draft pick or not. They do, but they get the number 5 seed spot. So all NFC teams, the first 5 draft picks for me, first 5 NFC picks for me, the first 5 picks in the draft all will go to the NFC. Just think about that for a second. The only team that is going to do bad enough to not get a top 5 draft pick, to get a top 5 draft pick, is the Houston Texans, except that they traded theirs last year to go get that number 3 spot. So they go out, they beat they lose to the Panthers. Bucs beat the Panthers, but then they lose to the Saints, Jags, and then they lose every other game on the schedule. I have them as a loss, except for their win against the Texans in week 9 and their win against the Packers in week 15. And that has been everything for you today. This has been another episode of the Sports Status Podcast live. Try to go anywhere from 1 to 3 days a week. So this episode will be recorded on Tuesday. But my last 3 episodes have all been recorded on the same night, just published different days. That's why you see me wearing a Denver Broncos shirt. All 3 shows. Anyway, same ends. This has been another episode of the Sports Status Podcast. See you live. See you on the other side.